People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good evening, and I hope you're all doing well and safe. Now, there isn't much to speak about in football in general or in relation to Arsenal, so once again I find myself speaking about latest things I've seen in the papers or articles or social media. Whether it happens or not, like you lot know, 98% of it is nonsense, but nonetheless decent talking points, people. According to the Daily Mail, and again with a pinch of salt, because they didn't think we'd spend 70 million on Pepe, whether it happened or not, or actually Unai Emery was going to become our manager. My point being, you don't know anything until it's happened. But we all know with with the worldwide issues that are happening, and obviously with Arsenal's finances, it's unlikely we're going to make major signings. Hopefully that's not the case. But according to the Mail, sorry people, Arsenal are actively on the lookout for free transfers and swap deals, underlining their financial position after stressing the need for their players to take cuts. Now, players are not stupid. New players have to come into the club. But if I look at someone like Willian now, people, he's someone that, from a business point of view, forget the player, 30 years of age, you know, he wants to stay in London. If he comes and gets, and I don't think they give him a 3-year deal, but if he comes and gets a 3-year deal and decent, respectable wages that puts him in and around the top 5 earners of this club, if I got a pay cut and things, or if I was negotiating prior to this thing happening, or negotiating anyways as a player, I'd look at this funny. Because you have to imagine we should only be giving Willian a 2-year deal, to be fair with you, if anything, if he comes to this club. But if he gets a 3-year deal and we're negotiating with anyone that's getting onto that side, they've got to be looking at him. Or even if you're a young player, if you're Saka at this moment in time, you haven't signed the deal, but you're told your club's making cuts and they're buying Willian, who, you know, Saka might very well be a left and a right winger one day, which he has done at 23's level, people. He might say, okay, if you've got money to bring him and make another competitor, then your offer, while I'm not asking for his wages necessarily, and I'm not saying Saka's doing this, I want a bit more, Bob. So we've got to really, my point being, we've got to tread lightly. Obviously, this is consistent with what we're told, limited funds, and Arsenal's financial position is obviously delicate, which doesn't spell good news for you. I'm hoping our scouts do a madness. Free transfers, I mean, Cavani's a free transfer, people. On a realistic thing, you're probably not hoping on signings like that. We've been linked with Willian and Ryan Fraser. They're not bad players, but are they going to make us Champions League contenders? They might play their part. But beyond squad players, definitely if right, you know what, Willian could probably do a thing, but his statistics are not that decent. Fraser, I'm not going to be against these man if they come to the club, but for me, you might as well just sign someone where scouts have then done their job. I know Gabriel Veron, you'll probably have to wait till he's 18, but you might as well just go and get him if you want another young winger or winger in general. What's the point? I get that they're more experienced and things, but I just don't think it makes sense, really and truly. That's my opinion. Obviously, if they sign for the club, it'd be fair. Swap deals is obviously of more potential because you've seen a lot of people linked with swaps. Barcelona linked with a whole host of different swaps. Spurs and with Ndombele and Barcelona, if that thing happens. So what can we do? I mean, there's not too many players you think could be swapped for anything. In a dream world, you could say Aubameyang, you know, just Jovic and money in Real Madrid's case. You've heard Real Madrid are not looking at him, but just to paint a picture. Don't know, because it's not FIFA, it's not Football Manager, it's not, you can't do these sort of things. There's not really too many players, so it's nice to see at least we're being creative about things. Again, I'm not trying to say we need to find another Martinelli. I'd love 11 of them in respective positions in terms of potential, but you've probably got to look more now at scouting than ever now, really and truly. And to be fair, Arsenal currently 9th, you know, missing out on Champions League for 3 years. You know, new manager. Arteta's no fool. He knew coming into this job there would be financial constraints and coaching would be a big element, but it doesn't spell good news. Now again, it's not fact, but it doesn't fill you with any confidence that you're going to have a stronger chance of getting top 4 next season potentially, people, really. And you know, Arteta, which I've done is what Emery's failed to do, managed to kind of mask someone like Xhaka's shortcomings with his lack of agility. Get Mustafi and these players within reason playing relatively decent. So what could he do if you gave him some proper tools to work with? No disrespect to these players that have played, because in their own right they've buckled up. But you can't expect a madness, really and truly. You can't expect too much. He's crippled in that regards, people, and we probably hit a point where in an ideal world he's able to get us top 4 with really an under quality side, but we'll hit a glass ceiling where he needs it and he might become frustrated. Arteta in himself. So it is what it is. Moving away from that though, in fact, part of that people, as a result, they are focusing on out-of-contract players while they also put feelers out to see if there are any potential player trades that could be arranged. You know, we showed with Mkhitaryan and Alexis were open to them sort of things, to be fair. Willian, whose agent Kai Jarutkin has close ties with Arsenal and Edu, is one free agent of interest to the club. So we're potentially going to be linked with, I don't know if we'd ever be able to facilitate Coutinho, but you look at Coutinho and these sort of players that have one foot allegedly out of their respective clubs' doors, we're going to probably be linked with them if they're not free agents, they want away, or players that clubs have made it known that, pardon me, they're being sold. And obviously someone like Kai Jarutkin, who has a lot of these people on his wage books, who is an Arsenal fan, who players are linked with us on a frequent occasion, you can expect probably some movement around this. And for me, regardless, do you know what, it doesn't fill me with any confidence, but if you turn around and it somehow address the areas that are needed, fair play. But by the same token, for me, and I don't really want to get frustrated about it, you know, you buy cheap. It's not exactly buying, but you do cheap things, and then the mistakes can become very expensive, people. I'm not getting at Cedric Suarez by any chance or David Luiz. I'm just highlighting the point, really, that David Luiz was kind of had one foot out the door at Chelsea, so we went for it. Suarez, you know, you're hearing Southampton kind of wanted to sell him. So did we look at that not as a quality right back? I'm not saying he's not, because I think he's decent, and I'm prepared to give him a chance. But did we look at that as, you know, he's got 6 months left, we can probably do something with that. We've addressed an area. Away from what you think of the player, we've brought in a body to assist us at right back with, you know, obviously Bellerin's long listed injury issues and stuff. I don't know if we genuinely wanted these players beyond that, and you do buy expensively. You can't, these mistakes can be expensive. I'm not saying Suarez is a mistake, but all of you can understand what I'm getting at. That's me. Apologies, people. I'm cool. I ain't got nothing. But yeah, man, it doesn't really fill you with any confidence, people, really and truly. Apparently the topic of the club's transfer plans were raised in discussions, with players wanting to know if they would end up seeing the club splash out in the summer after being asked to reduce their wages. Obviously I've copied and pasted that following from the previous thing I said about the wage reductions and having to do things with our transfer policy. So we'll see how it goes, man, but that doesn't fill you with any pride. But by the same token, when you're linked with someone like Thomas Partey and things like that, and his agent has been tweaking really and truly, and really that's for another vid. But apparently Patricia Colzon said AS has learnt that Thomas Partey previously was considering moving to Arsenal before COVID-19 crisis stopped the league campaigns everywhere. And I don't know, I feel Thomas Partey, I don't know if he's badly advised, but I really feel, it's in another vid, but I feel sorry for him, because whether he's going to stay at Atletico Madrid or leave, they're kind of making a circus of his career, of his career at the moment right now, from off the field, but also his contract stuff, because it's just a lot of drama really at the moment. You've got people, former coaches, you've got parents, you've got allegedly, again I'll talk about it in another vid really, but agencies have come out and released statements in relation to what, you've all saw the Instagram post, what his new club should be, in which Arsenal was listed, and I think PSG and Juventus, and it's been deleted. Allegedly it was a member of staff did it and they weren't supposed to do it. If that's true, I don't know, but this sounds like a circus, doesn't it, people? So it is what it is in that regards. Moving away from that though, and apparently Di Marzio says Inter Milan are not talking to Arsenal about Aubameyang, and there's been no official contact from the Italians. He could become a target in the future though. So again, beyond paper talk, there's no legs to it. Things can develop and develop very quickly, but nothing's happened in that regards. Moving away from that though, people, and depending on what you read, Dani Ceballos could either have a future at Madrid, be sold, or be on loan. AS apparently say Real Madrid are open to selling Dani Ceballos if someone offers 50 million for him, so that's about 40 odd in pounds. Dani Ceballos apparently is to be loaned out again next season. This is by another sporting publication as well. So again, it will be irrelevant what happens to his future if it's not going to be here, but maybe Arteta might think, okay, if we really have no money and we can't do anything, I'm not going to get a creative midfielder here. Ceballos might not want to stay at Arsenal, might want to go back to Spain, might want to try crack on at things at Real Madrid, but he might say to him, listen, I know you didn't start playing straight away when I was here, but since the Dubai thing, you've been in the team, you've been a key part. It's going to be like that from the start of next season. I'm patterning properly. I came in mid-season really, and it was turbulent, but we're changing it. He might say, you know what, listen, there's stability. If there's even more stability at Arsenal, because it's not 1 minute Emre and then Lombard and then Arteta, and you know, he says, all right, cool. if I earn my space, I'm starting, then that's what he needs. Because next year, granted, if we get over this, it's what would have been the Euros this year, next year. Obviously, I'm sure he needs to have a really super season to play at Real Madrid now, really and truly. His next season, regardless of where he plays, he needs to make himself undeniable that if he's at Madrid and he's on the bench, it's kind of a shame, or people are banging for him to be given more chances. Or if he does stay at Arsenal or go on loan elsewhere, they sit there and say it's bewildering that Real Madrid let him go and he's a shoo-in to go to the Euros. He doesn't do that. His chance of making it at Madrid on a permanent basis beyond a bit part player could be weak, people. Moving away from that and keeping up the theme with midfielders, Dimarzio has said on Torreira, I don't think Milan will spend 40 or 50 on Torreira. I also don't feel Torreira wants to come back to Italy just yet. He's a very good player, so some offers may arrive for him, and even if they do, Arsenal will decide what they want to do. Now, he's someone I think, if I'm Atletico Madrid, and I know they've got financial issues allegedly, and indirectly every player is up for sale, you might flirt the idea of Torreira, really. It's like, you give us money, you give us some money, and Torreira will give you Partey. Or, it could be a straight swap, and Ceballos, Arteta might do that. Personally, I'd like to see the two in the side, but he might say, do you know what? He's just more my cup of tea. I want to keep Xhaka. I think that'll be a good partnership, and I want that by any means. Then fair play to them people, really and truly. But hopefully that's not the case, because I would like the option of Torreira or Partey, or bringing them both off the bench, or having them both start, or just having different options, man. Because I know they're both different, but I describe Partey as he's got qualities, technical qualities on the ball, but he's very strong. He's box to box sort of thing. Torreira obviously breaks down play. We ain't got two other industrial sort of midfielders of such people, or players that attempt to be. So to hear that Milan are not going for Torreira is of interest to me, people, because I'm a big Torreira fan. I'm a very big Torreira fan. Like, if I was Arsenal manager, the players that play for me really and truly, or if I had to take over tomorrow, which would never be the case, I'm looking at Leno, I'm looking at Aubameyang, I'm looking at Martinelli, I'm looking at Saka, and I'm looking at Torreira, really and truly. Defence, I'm having a bit of a think, but these are the players that are immediately in my thoughts, people, really. So I'm happy to hear Torreira, but... So maybe the rumours of being unhappy are just nonsense, but who knows, people. If he is unhappy, then we do need to sell him. If these are rumours that aren't true, then hopefully it's put a bed to things and stuff, and we can just get on with playing. ESPN have said Ozil's future at Arsenal looks uncertain, with the club yet to offer him an extension on his contract, which expires in 2021, unless it was going to be a thing where he's going to stay at this club and be a bit part player of such, on significantly reduced wages, maybe even less than half, I'd say, from an Arsenal perspective. There's no way Ozil signs a new deal. There's no way. A lot's been made of the deal, and a lot of people that are so hard on saying Ozil shouldn't have got that deal in the first place. And again, in hindsight, letting Ozil and Alexis go might have been the best thing. But people were saying we can't let both of them leave in their situation. So I do think while the club didn't handle it in the best of ways, really, you got to be fair. You can't really be damned if you do, damned if you don't. It would be suicide, really and truly, by the club financially, based on what you've heard with having to take cuts to commit another year to Ozil. And if he was to commit another year to Ozil, let's just say for the same deal, what would that tell you? That would be silly, because we're probably in negotiations for a couple of our players, or need to be, and especially for Raul, who made a very big commitment on last 2 years. You've got to know what you're going to do. 2021, I'm seeing Saka and Aubameyang, two players I'd say would be key for me. Their deals are running out. 2022 is there as well, and then very shortly this time next year, you've got to have one eye on the 2023s and stuff like that. It's a never-ending process of renewing deals and whatnot. So I think once Ozil's contract is done here, he'll either, I don't know, even before, there's a chance, maybe if it could be facilitated and financially in some degree, he could even, if the club want to move him on and Arteta doesn't want to use him, who's used him so far, he could be moved on. He's been linked with, I don't think he'll go to China for what he's already said off the field, but he's been linked with Turkey, and his wife apparently wants him to play for Fenerbahce, and he wants to play in Turkey. Obviously, he's got business interests in America, and I'm sure the idea of going to play in the MLS will be something that entices him. And who knows, there could even be another project in another league that he wants, people. There could even be another Premier League sort of project. He could say, I want to return to Werder Bremen or Schalke or whatever, do you get it, people? So who knows? A contract that has to be renewed like yesterday, and this is something of nothing because we keep hearing this. Football London have said Arsenal will move quickly to try and secure a new long-term contract for Bukayo Saka. The club will reopen negotiations for an extension for Saka in coming weeks, with Arteta hopeful Saka's first team involvement role at the club will convince him to stay in North London. And I hope that's the case because he's got a good thing going for him. He's playing, he's in a fortunate situation, he's earned this spot. But at the end of the day, and I think he will stay, but that's just me as a fan thinking he'll stay. I don't know that for sure. He ain't signed a deal. He's been linked with a team like Borussia Dortmund, considering what they've done for Jadon Sancho in his own individual right, and what they're doing for Highland and any other young player. That could entice him for that experience. Do you get it, people? He's been linked with Liverpool. That's a very big proposition, especially with how Klopp's got them playing. So until he signs the new deal, it's scary, and it would, you know what, the club will have to keep going, because I've seen us lose Thierry Henry, so no one else really matters like that, but it'd be a massive L to lose Saka. That's what... It'd be an L for us as fans, but that's the whole point of the academy, bringing through a player that is going to be able to do it, people. And that's not necessarily always the case at clubs. And fortunately, we have a club that has that. And to let Saka go for free would be gutting people. And you'd have to ask us questions. If a young player who has a young manager in Arteta, and their commitment to playing a young squad doesn't want to commit his future, then what does that tell you about potentially how the clubs run, philosophies? Because at the same time, Saka might not know everything, but Saka's in that dressing room. Saka has his own mind, like everybody else. And they don't live in a bubble. They must see reports sometimes and think to themselves, or their parents or guardians or brothers and sisters or people's circle must say, did the board really lack ambition? And they might think to themselves, you get it, people. And, if Aubameyang leaves, if a couple other players leave, is it the place to be? It would be because he's a young man and he's doing good things, but it's a tough one to think about. I think he renews a deal, and I hope he renews a deal, but at the same time, I don't know any of that to be true, people. So it is what it is in that regards. I'm going to get out of here because I've got nothing more to add, people. But on that note, people, Deluded, I'm out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment and subscribe. I'm out.